Hello, I'm going to talk about Kenya, a British colony, and how it became independent. Here is Kenya on a map of Africa. Kenya is part of the Greater East Africa region. You can see the Indian Ocean and the countries bordering Kenya on the map on the top left. The first non-Africans to visit the Kenyan coast were Arab traders. From a mixture of Arabic and the local African languages, a new language, Swahili, was born, which is still spoken over a large area. You can see a map of Swahili speakers in the middle here. You can see the Swahili phrase Hakuna Matata, no worries, on the right. Do you know which famous Disney movie it was used in? The first Europeans to visit the Kenyan coast were the Portuguese. From 1498, they started using the port of Mombasa as a stopover for ships going to the Far East, but they did not go inland. Centuries later, during the 1885 European partition of Africa, East Africa was divided into different territories. You can see a map showing how Europeans shared Africa among themselves. The British received part of East Africa. In 1895, the British founded the East African Protectorate, and many British settlers came and occupied the fertile East African highlands. Many of them became big coffee and tea plantation owners. You can see a picture of a Kenyan coffee plantation here. In 1920, the Protectorate became the British colony of Kenya. It was administered by a British governor. Around that time, thousands of Indians were brought to Kenya to build the Kenya-Uganda railway line. Many Indians brought their families settled in Kenya too. The British allowed them to take control of business and trade. However, the Indians and the local Kenyans were not allowed to take part in government. In 1942, some members of local Kenyan tribes started a movement called Mau Mau to fight for freedom from British rule. Their leader was Jomo Kenyatta, and you can see his picture on the right. Unlike Gandhi in India, who used peaceful protest, Kenyatta and his supporters fought the British with guns. The British rulers reacted strongly. Many Kenyans were killed and others put in prison camps and tortured. You can see a picture here of Kenyan soldiers working for the British, looking for Mau Mau fighters. On the right is a memorial to the Kenyan victims of the British during Mau Mau. Kenyatta was in prison for more than 7 years. He was released in 1962. In December 1963, Kenya gained independence and Kenyatta became its first prime minister and founding father of independent Kenya. In 1964, Kenya became a republic and Kenyatta became its first president. The Kenyan flag has 3 equal horizontal bands of black, top, red, and green. Black symbolizes the indigenous black population. Red symbolizes the blood which Kenyans shed in the struggle for independence. And green represents Kenya's fertile landscape and its natural wealth. The red band is edged in white, which stands for peace and unity. The flag also has a large Maasai warrior shield covering crossed spears at the center. It symbolizes the defense of freedom. After independence, both Swahili and English became Kenya's official languages. Kenya also has more than 40 local tribes and languages. Kenya is famous today for its nature and many national parks. Many tourists visit Kenya to see on safari. Some of the most popular national parks are in Maseo, the home of one of Kenya's indigenous tribes. You can see pictures of a safari park and a Maasai woman in the bottom row of pictures. The picture on the bottom right shows Kenya's capital city, Nairobi. It is the biggest city in East Africa and the 14th biggest in the whole of Africa. Thank you for listening.